Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Real Heroes Show. You got Cory and Nick with you here, as always. And in today's video, the wait is finally over. There's a brand new Marvel movie out there. Marvel Studios' Black Widow is now in theaters and on Disney+, and we are going to review it. Big time spoilers here. You have been warned. For the love of God, there are going to be a lot of spoilers. We're going to talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, give it a score out of 10, and then all the way at the end, we're going to talk about that very, very, very fire post-credit scene, so make sure to stick with us all the way till then to talk about the future of the MCU in Phase 4. Nick, how are you today, my friend?
Feeling a bit red.
Yeah, you're in the red room currently.
I am, yes.
Your shirt is red, your room is
shirt
red.
Is red. Yeah, I didn't plan this out.
I don't believe you.
I am just kidding, I did.
It's good that you have the Periphery shirt on. That's one of my favorite songs by them. So
yes, representing Periphery here.
Yeah, man.
Go check them out.
I didn't think this movie was real for the longest time because it just
figment of our imagination.
Pushed and pushed and pushed. I think it was supposed to originally come out on May 1st of 2020.
Yeah.
And that got moved to July or August, then November, then May again, and now here we are. It's the weekend of July 9th, and it's finally real. The Marvel fanfare hit.
It happened.
The feels were engaged. We both watched it at home though.
Yeah, I mean,
didn't feel like going to a movie theater for it if I didn't have to.
It was more cost effective, you know.
Because I plan on watching it a few times. And $30
Exactly.
once to watch it a few times is way better than $20 for two people every single time we go. So
exactly. Exactly.
So this movie stars Scarlett Johansson, Florence Pugh, David Harbour, Rachel Weisz as the core group. And it is in between the events of Captain America: Civil War and Avengers: Infinity War, when the Avengers have kind of broken up. Black Widow is on the run, and chaos ensues, and we get a little bit of backstory that we didn't know existed for the Black Widow character. So Nick, I'll let you go first. What were some of the things that you enjoyed about this film?
I enjoyed, first thing, I had said it multiple times last time when we were watching it. David Harbour, I've always been a fan of him, and I've always thought he was great in Stranger Things. I joked about how the ending of Stranger Things season 3 was sort of hilariously intertwined with this movie because he's a Russian agent. He's in Russia. But I digress. He was awesome. I loved every scene that he was in. He was hilarious. But he was also kind of trying to be for real about certain things. Very self-contained individual. But his explanations or his jokes weren't necessarily supposed to be super funny, but they were. And again, his sort of Russian accent was pretty good. And the girls, so again, every scene that he was in, I feel like he elevated it more. But coincidentally, Florence Pugh, I thought she was really good in this too. Awesome. I've never really watched her in anything else. I've known of her.
Oh man, dude! So two movies, Midsummer, which is a horror film that A24 Studios
never watched
did.
That. Yeah.
She's amazing in that, and Greta Gerwig's remake of Little Women. She is easily the best part of that movie as well. So if you haven't caught up on your Florence filmography, those are the two movies I would highly recommend checking her out in. She's a huge get for Marvel, and we'll talk about why at the end of this video, because I think she's got a big part in the future of the franchise. But to go back to David Harbour, one of the things that a lot of people kind of shit on Marvel for is the quips and the jokes that don't necessarily fit in, or they always happen at a dramatic moment. I thought that David Harbour's character was just naturally funny. And like you said, he wasn't trying to be super funny, but everything he did made me laugh.
Yeah, same. I found myself laughing every single time he was exactly not trying to be funny, but it was.
His obsession with Captain America.
Did he talk about me? Did he tell the old war stories?
He did the serious dad thing where he's like, "Hey, let me talk to you for a minute, in private, but just between me and you." And it's that's something where he's supposed to say, I never loved your mother or something like that. And he was just like, did he talk about me?
Yeah. He's like trying to tell
Hilarious.
he's trying to give the explanation to like Yelena, and she's like, what's the point? And he goes, that is the point. And
that is the point.
Like, there is no point. Like, everything, the airplane scene where he's, trying to talk to them. He's like, oh, I get it. You can't hear me. And he puts the headset on and he's got the microphone. He goes, so tell me what it's like.
Yeah.
And I like some of the broken, like English here and there you'd see, not just by him, but from Florence or Yelena. And I think for the acting sake of both of those characters, again, they really helped elevate the movie, the characters again. The first time we're actually seeing them in the MCU. I love how Red Guardian, like, he was struggling to like get his suit on, but he is still able to make it work, right? Like, fat guy in a little coat.
Yep.
And he wouldn't do his helmet strap. He would just kind of put it on.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, again, like he was able to like surprise me in ways of this movie that just like made it better, like in the intro.
Yeah.
The entire intro, all through the whole Cuba scene, fantastic. I'm like, damn, like I wasn't really expecting this. And I know you were kind of just saying before, this felt like some sort of Jason Bourne type movie. He's on the side of the plane wig, just like popping shots at that shield.
Yeah.
Where I was like, oh damn, the shield's in this. Awesome.
With like janky 95 era SUVs.
It's great. Yeah. And as far as the intro goes, we get a little bit more about the home, the fake family, right? It was just a mission sort of thing, and but the conversation at dinner, I was like, it was real to me though. Like feeling to like Yelena especially.
Oh yeah.
And which is kind of touching to see, I'd say, for the most part, because she wanted to have something like that, and then towards the end, the trust was like, it was real for me too, and I do like that we finally get an explanation for the backstory, especially Budapest. Like, we've heard about it before, and was like, what's going on? And I know when I was watching the movie last time with our buddy Austin, and we're like, are we gonna actually see this? And we did, right? And it was kind of cool to get an idea of where this movie takes place with Thunderbolt Ross, and it kind of just gauging where the Budapest took place before she became an Avenger, but knowing what kind of went into it with having to blow up a building that had some collateral damage, as she called it. Again, I really like the backstory with the explanations, learning more about the character, the Black Widow program, and knowing that there are plenty of them.
And it got much worse as time went on.
Yeah, it got terribly worse.
In Age of Ultron, they're like, oh man, Scarlett's character has been through a lot. And then fast forward a couple of years, and it's like, oh, nope, it's way worse now.
Yeah, just kidding.
Holy crap.
Yeah, so it's like sleeper agents just, basically everywhere. But there is a way to get out with the little vials.
Little Firefly gas.
Firefly gas, yeah. It's Black Widow gas, something like that. So red, ironically. So
something.
A lot of red in this movie.
Yeah, well, kind of saw that coming.
Yeah, that's with the Ruskies.
Yeah. So I'm going to echo some of your sentiments on this. I thought the intro was absolutely fantastic. It had a grounded feel. The action all felt very real. When cars were crashing, it didn't feel over the top. CGI fest like. It was very Bourne series, Mission Impossible style, James Bondy to a degree. Which there was even a clip later in the movie where she's watching Moonraker, which was just pretty funny foreshadowing, considering what happened at the end. But the family table scene in the middle of the film, I want more of that from Marvel, where it's just 4 very talented actors in a room hashing shit out. and it doesn't have to just be like joke after joke after joke. Like that was really good stuff. And it's the whole idea of, like you said, it was all real to me or whatever for Yelena's character. Those 3 years are the only parts of her life that she like consciously remembers as being her own, and it's the only time she's ever been happy. And she's got 3 other people in a room telling her it was all bullshit. So it's really good stuff in there. David Harbour was terrific, like we talked about. Very much needed comedic relief in a movie that is basically talking about child trafficking and mind control. It kind of broke the tension a lot of those scenes. There's the one part where Yelena storms off and goes into the bedroom, and then he follows her in, and it's kind of like a cabin. It very much reminded me of season 2 of Stranger Things when his character and Eleven are in that cabin, and they kind of butt heads a lot. So that kind of made me chuckle, which was cool. I thought the music was fantastic. I thought that the cinematography was very good.
I can agree with that.
We'll get into the Taskmaster stuff because there's parts of it that I liked, there's parts of it that I didn't like. I thought when Taskmaster first attacked Natasha in Norway, great little jump scare with
that bridge scene.
And the way that they did the tech in the visor to mimic her moves and the way they fought and all that was really good. When Taskmaster first jumped out of her vehicle, the audio was like, and then like every step the subwoofers hit, it had like a really intimidating, threatening kind of presence. The tank scene after that, when they're getting chased on the motorcycle and then in the SUV afterwards, again felt very Mission Impossible, James Bond type thing. Very cool. Loved all that. The way the tech expanded for the arrows and the bow and everything. I loved all of that, which I thought was really, really cool. But at the same time, and this will kind of segue into maybe some things that we didn't so much like. It just felt like there was enough in this movie that was heavy, and there was a bad enough person, because Dreykov was like an absolute shit human. That Taskmaster maybe didn't need to be in the film.
I agree.
I thought, I said, the action, the way that they had her mimic all the different Avengers stuff, the Black Panther with the claws, Cap throwing the shield, Black Widow with the poses, all that stuff, really cool. But I'm not sure it was necessary for a 2-hour movie. I think there was enough in there that they could have kept it a little more grounded and maybe not so much worried about it. I didn't mind the reveal. I know that in most cases Taskmaster is usually a dude or whatever, but it was kind of neat to see that it was somebody that we thought Natasha killed, and it turns out it was somebody Natasha didn't kill or whatever. But I just, for the sake of getting through a 2-hour movie, because again, now that we're used to watching Marvel in 6-hour format compared to 2-hour format, it just felt like that overstuffed it a little bit, and maybe Taskmaster would be better served somewhere else. But I don't know how you feel about that, but that's just kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, as a big Marvel nerd, as we all know, I've known about Taskmaster for years, both in comics and in video games. I understand that a lot of people won't know anything about Taskmaster other than some person in this movie that had a shield and knows how to mimic people based on their movements because he has some high-tech visor. The Taskmaster that other people might know of from the comics, or even like the Marvel Avengers game that came out a year ago almost, he's in the very beginning of that game, and there's ironically a bridge sequence between him and Natasha, but they both know who each other are, and again, the whole swapping of like the characters between it's supposed to be a guy named Tony Masters is his real name, in the comics, but we're changing it to Dreykov's daughter. I can't think of her first name, but it's a moot point, I guess. And it's just, we think she's dead. She's not. They bring in a villain like his Taskmaster, and they kind of just fill her in there. And it's like, at this point, just don't even bring him into the movie. Save the time, have the focus be more on the program, more on these 4 characters, 3 of which are brand new to the MCU.
Right.
And if you're planning on expanding on them in the MCU moving forward, then I think you should have more focus on them. And not to say that they didn't have a lot, but this doesn't seem like a Scarlett Johansson movie. It was like Scarlett Johansson and 3 other main actors who are sharing time quarterly. And as much as I enjoyed it, I think for the sake of a movie that's supposed to be primarily about Black Widow herself, it didn't really feel like that much. And I think again, like her not knowing who Taskmaster was, even though I love the fight sequence, that was really cool. The choreography, I'd say throughout the movie was also very well done.
Oh yeah.
So, but again, Taskmaster wise, I think they could have done without. I think they could have put him in or whatever, put Taskmaster in a TV series and have Taskmaster be the main villain of a TV series of a 6-hour format.
Yeah.
And at that point, I think you would have cared about the villain a bit more. Because I know the main villain is Dreykov and what he's done to, trafficking young girls for decades.
Comes back to the James Bond thing, right?
Yep.
It's like the mustache twirling villain that's behind the desk. It feels like Bourne. It feels like Bond.
Yep.
And sometimes those villains have muscle, right? But the muscle is usually just like a random nobody who doesn't speak.
Right.
Why did that random nobody who doesn't speak have to be Taskmaster? Even that PS4 Avengers game, they have that bridge fight. Natasha and Taskmaster throwing barbs back at each other verbally the entire time they're fighting.
Yep.
This Taskmaster didn't speak all the way until the end of the film, and it wasn't until she got Firefly gassed and she was like, "Is he gone?" Because her father's a shit human, and we already know that her father's a shit human. So to me, it seemed not like a waste of the character, but just like maybe it didn't have to be there.
It was totally unnecessary. Yeah, I won't say waste, because it's like we need to use her as a crutch to get at Dreykov, and then have this person also be Taskmaster,
right?
Because we're throwing Taskmaster in to please the fans, and it's like, but did you really please the fans though? Because as far as I'm concerned, yeah, it's like 50-50. I appreciate the attempt, I really do, as a comic fan, but as someone who wants to see things maybe extrapolated a little bit more in the MCU, I think you missed the mark on this one.
So one of the things I thought about villain wise when I was racking through my brain on this was, do you remember back season 1 of Jessica Jones on Netflix?
Yes. It
was a strong female protagonist, and then David Tennant as the Purple Man.
Yeah. Who
was just like a sleazeball douchebag who had mind control, right?
Right.
So kind of sort of similar parallels there. There was no... They didn't bring in another character just for the sake of action, which I felt like that's really what Taskmaster was there for. All of the big action set pieces involve Taskmaster. And it feels like Marvel has like a checklist where they're like, oh, we got to do the jokes, we got to do the quips, we got to do the action, or else people are going to be upset. Like Jessica Jones season 1 is phenomenal.
Absolutely, it's one of the best.
The dialogue and the emotional connection between the protagonist and the antagonist. Natasha and Dreykov have a history, and I would have liked them to dive into that a little further, and maybe make that the emotional crux of the film, and not so much, Taskmaster, Boogeyman type situation.
Right. Yeah. Don't try and throw in a Baba Yaga when you don't need to. Right. I mean, I think if they would have actually focused more on her fighting other Black Widow initiatives.
Yeah.
Right, like we saw a whole room full.
And that sequence was awesome when they were all ganging up on her. It was great.
Right. I kind of wanted to see, and I would have rather seen more of that than like the daughter that we all thought was dead, but not, is in a suit. I think that would have made a little bit more sense for the movie, the purpose of the movie. Like she's fighting against people who basically who she is as well. and I would have liked to maybe have seen again more team up between like the whole family fighting, right? Like not just Red Guardian versus Taskmaster. Like it would have been funny to see like some of the other widows fight Red Guardian.
And that fight was awesome, right? The choreography between Red Guardian and Taskmaster was great. Like I have no complaints about how any of that looked or came across on screen.
The stunt work was well done, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, so
the way they shot it was awesome. All the action was ridiculous. I mean, until the end,
hit the mark.
We'll talk about the CGI stuff, because I'm giving myself a 30-second tirade. A few moments. CGI. So what else about this outside of Taskmaster didn't quite click for you?
The CGI a little bit, you know, like
baby.
Like the CGI, it wasn't until like it was when she's swinging on the rope. I'm like,
so dumb.
I'm like, what is going on right now? Because I don't know. That just seems like that they could have done a better job, I guess. Like for a movie that has a $200 million budget.
Yep.
Yes.
So there's two spots where the CGI just becomes completely ridiculous and takes you out of the film. One is that prison break sequence with Red Guardian, and it's really mainly just because of the fact that the probability of her swinging on that little thin rope in between all those cranes, doing a perfect backflip, and then doing the disgusting superhero pose that Yelena calls her out for. Yeah. She calls it disgusting when she does it herself. That made me laugh a lot. That was very funny. The other part is in the third act. Like, we have, up until this point, with the exception of that prison break, you've got this intro that everything takes place on the ground level. You've got the motorcycle chase, you've got the thing on the bridge in Norway, you've got the tank sequence in Budapest. All this stuff is like this real in-your-face, visceral, James Bond, Bourne Supremacy type thing. Right. And then all of a sudden, we have a CGI battle that's almost in outer space. And it's like, we're contractually obligated to do a massive CGI fest at the end of every Marvel movie. And like, why couldn't the Red Room just be on Earth? Why did it have to be a battle station in the clouds that had to get destroyed? To me, that seemed completely unnecessary. And then at the end, you've got Melina and Red Guardian that are in a jet, which is fine, right?
Yeah.
They're surrounded by steel and metal and landing mechanisms and whatnot. So if they're going to fall from the sky, they're probably going to be okay.
Yeah.
But then you've got Black Widow, Yelena, and Taskmaster that are all literally just hurtling through the sky with debris flying past them with no protective gear on. They're using the floating and flying debris as like springboards and launch points. Yeah. Which, and this is not to discount Black Widow as a character, because I think she's really a total badass and amazing, but it reminded me of like Spider-Man 3 from back in the day, when that crane sequence happens and Spidey's using his spider senses to bounce off of stuff. That's what they were doing, but these people don't have powers. So
yeah, that's the big takeaway. Like,
I don't know.
So I'll add to that. Like the only person who has powers in this movie is Red Guardian, because he's a super soldier.
Right, he's a super soldier, and he's the one they put in a damn airplane.
Yeah, so you take the one guy who has powers, and which we see in the very beginning of the movie, which I wasn't sure if we'd see that or not. When he totally like throws the trailer.
Yeah, man, it's great.
That's blocking the plane.
Yep.
The hangar. I'm like, oh damn, okay, he's a super soldier, great. To the point where they're falling, you know, like I think it's in the first fight between Natasha and the widows in Budapest and Budapest. I say pest. She falls with another widow, and she's like hitting her back multiple times,
like 3 times,
and she lands on her feet like a fucking cat.
Like she's fine. Like,
and meanwhile, there's another widow who lands just straight down on her back and is like basically paralyzed, and then like shoots herself in the face.
Yeah.
Authorizing, termination from Dreykov.
Yeah.
And it's like, so she's basically dead, but the star of the show is not. And again, it's
I get it. It's a comic book movie.
It's a comic book movie.
We shouldn't take it too seriously.
I get it, right?
But
like,
I feel like I'm about the same age as the Black Widow character right now, and like I feel pain just getting out of bed in the morning. So like if I fell from 4 stories up and hit my neck and back on 3 different hard pieces of metal on the way down, 1, I wouldn't land on my feet, and 2, I'd probably be dead.
Right, like this isn't like, if Red Guardian went through that, like even though he's severely out of shape, he could still get up because you realize, oh, the caveat is him being a super soldier. Like,
sure.
Like perfect example is look at any of the other Marvel movies where Cap, Steve Rogers, or even say Bucky have fallen and been through some shit.
They don't land on their feet.
And they don't land on their feet, but it still kind of phases them.
Yeah.
To the point where, like, I mean, Winter Soldier, perfect movie, right? She's fighting Bucky, and Bucky is just straight up owning the shit out of her because he's a super soldier. But even when Steve, jumps out of the building and lands even on his shield through how many, like, hundreds of feet or whatever that might have been.
Yeah.
And he was still pretty phased.
Yep.
Right? Like, so to have, Black Widow kind of fall on her back, like, and like, I remember at one point I'm like, that's my spine leaving the building, right? Like, the spine has left the chat.
It's done. In chat to pay respects.
Like, I think the closest reality of like what Black Widows are, it's like a pro athlete in great shape that just has severed ties to be attached emotionally to a certain extent, right? But they're also like, again, like they have like the flexibility, like the fitness of like a gymnast, right?
Sure. But at the end of the day, they're all still human.
Exactly.
They don't have any powers. It's
and
the same thing with Jason Bourne. He gets the shit kicked out of him in all of his movies, and it shows. He's hurt. James Bond gets hurt.
Yeah.
They don't land on their feet. That was a little weird to me, but
yeah, like, and you can see the bruises. I like the fact that they showed that that there is a human side of, like,
100%.
She's getting bruised because she's been taking a beating, right? So some parts like that, and again, I know it's a superhero movie, right? But at the same time, like, I think another good comparison would be from like a female protagonist perspective. We've already mentioned her once, Jessica Jones. She's got powers. She still gets the shit kicked out of her from time to time, and it still phases her. So, I mean, just, I hate to say it, but just maybe a little bit more realism for like even like a superhero movie, like would have been maybe a little bit more enjoyable to see. Again, like not knocking on the action or the sequences of the cinematography or stunt work, right? Like, still good in my opinion. So. But
all that stuff was awesome looking. It just was a little nonsensical to a degree. But for me, the only other thing that kind of bothered me was that they put General Ross in the trailers, and he's like barely in the damn movie. Yeah. He's there in the beginning for no reason, and then he's there at the end, and he just so happens to magically know where this battle station's gonna fall. And then he's got a team of like 40 SUVs that are ready to, like,
yeah.
I could have done without him being part of it. Whatever. But
it's like an Easter egg sort of thing, if anything.
I guess. I mean,
but
everybody's been talking like, oh, General Ross is going to start the Thunderbolts or whatever, and like, he's in this movie, and there's no mention of anything Thunderbolt-ish at all.
Especially when this movie takes place. So
right, because it takes place in between Infinity War and Endgame, and
by that point we haven't had any Thunderbolt references. So.
Right. So I just didn't think he needed to be in the film, but whatever. It is what it is. So if you had to give this one, Marvel's triumphant return to the cinema, a score out of 10, given all of the things we just talked about, where would you fall?
Probably 7.5.
7.5. Okay, that's fair. I was going to say 7.2.
Yeah, like I initially, like last night when as soon as we ended, I looked over at Austin. I was like, "What's your rating?" And I will explain his rating system because it'll just deviate.
420 is not an answer. So
his was like 65%, but it was more so like having to like put it between a 7 and an 8. But so anyway, I think, yeah, so, anyway. So I'd say like initially I was saying somewhere between like a 7 and 7.5.
Okay.
So
yeah, I thought it was good. It was definitely better than I thought it was going to be. I was coming in with relatively low expectations, and there was a lot of stuff that hit for me that was better than I thought it was going to be. It's just the third act just kind of left me like, okay, whatever. But
I wish the movie came out before, like before Endgame, especially because the thing about it is like, again, even it was when it was initially being released, it's post Endgame. We know she's dead. There's really like no hope to kind of just be like, oh, great, we're gonna see her in more movies.
Nope, this is it for her. She's done.
So I don't want to point fingers and say like it's your fault, dude, this movie didn't come out before or anything like that. Like it is what it is. You know, they could have released this movie years ago, but
this was a long overdue thing, man. I mean, Iron Man, Cap, Thor, they all got their own films. Black Widow should have had her own 5 or 6 years ago. Also, it would have been. If they would have done something like this back then, people would have lost their minds for it. Because it would have been like a Winter Soldier type film at its core, and you know, I think it would have been even more successful than it's going to be. I mean, financially, it'll kick ass in ways that only Marvel movies can. But I think it was a little too late with this one. But so let's get into the juicy stuff. Let's talk about this post-credit scene, because this to me was really the whole point of the damn movie at releasing it when it came out. You know, you've got Yelena. She's been through this thing with Black Widow now. They've kind of reconciled. She's back in Ohio. She goes to a grave site. It's Natasha's grave. It says daughter, sister, Avenger. She's fixing up all the flowers and the bears and all that stuff. She kisses the gravestone. Sad, poignant moment, and then all of a sudden you just hear this loud blowing of the nose, and it's none other than good old Contessa Valentina, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. And she shows up. She says, "I'm so sorry, I'm allergic to the Midwest," which I thought was hilarious because Elena's character has romanticized Ohio the entire movie, and then Contessa just comes in and shits all over it, which is hysterical. And then she's like, "Hey, I'm on holiday. Why are you here? You're not supposed to be bothering me." And she's like, "Well, I thought I'd deliver your next target to you personally." And she pulls out an iPad, and the next target is the person who killed her sister, which is Clint Barton and Hawkeye, which is great because there's a Hawkeye Disney Plus series coming out later this year.
Yes,
so it kind of seems like a pretty big slam dunk that Yelena's probably going to show up in that show. So I thought the post-credit scene was the best thing in the whole movie. I don't know how you feel, but I'm very hyped for the Hawkeye show now.
Yeah, I did my best to stay away from anyone that might have seen the movie before I did. Mm-hmm. And we were talking last night. I don't know if there's a post-credit scene. We obviously stayed through the credits.
Sure.
Since we're in the comfort of like my home. So when it came on, I was like, oh, okay, let's see what this is about.
Yeah, like you inch up in your chair a little bit, and you're like, all right, let's go. What do we got?
Start leaning forward, like, what's this about? What's this about? And then, like, initially when we hear like the blowing of the nose, you think, who could it be, right? And it's like there's this long pause in my brain trying to figure out in a matter of milliseconds the list of people it could be. Like, was it Bucky? Could it have been Fury? Right? Like a number of people, but I wasn't expecting Valentina. But I was super hyped for it because
so happy that it was, though.
And here's a question I had. was that a scene that was originally put in the movie, and it had been in the movie that was supposed to come out in May 2020?
Mm-hmm.
Because if that was the first time we would have seen Julia Louis-Dreyfus as Valentina, and then the first MCU show that was supposed to come out was Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is where she also makes an appearance. So having the two line up that way, would have obviously like
that was the plan,
right?
So I read an interview when Falcon and Winter Soldier ended, that somebody, I can't remember if it was the writer of that show or director or Feige or someone, but the idea was that Contessa was going to show up first in Black Widow and then second in Falcon and Winter Soldier, because you notice
makes sense
in Black Widow, you hear her name, but it's just Florence calling her Val.
Yeah.
And then in Falcon and Winter Soldier, she introduces herself and she tells John Walker to not call her that. So it like sequentially lines up, but apparently it looks like she's running a hit squad, which is interesting because now she's got Yelena, who is essentially a Black Widow, and one who they say is the most ruthless and calculated of them all, and the U.S. agent. It looks like a Thunderbolt Dark Avengers type team up thing is starting, and meanwhile, at the same time, Marvel's also setting up the Kid Loki, Wanda and Vision's kids, new Hawkeye, Miss Marvel. Like, are we is this gonna lead into like a Young Avengers versus the Thunderbolts type situation? That could be where they're going. And
I think it would be pretty cool to see. So, you know, again, there's always something that gets set up from one show or one movie to the next. You know, something that DC doesn't know how to do. So, and that's honestly again what makes Marvel better than DCU cinematically speaking. We're not going to get into all the logistics of what movie's better, but it's just for the continuity of story. What do we get here from the MCU? We see where this takes place, where it fits in the past. We see where it takes off in the present, future time span. You know, and again, I think it's pretty interesting for the post-credit scene to see Hawkeye on an iPad being a target, because we know he wanted to take that bait instead. He wanted to sacrifice himself, and he tried to.
He jumped. He shot her to stop her from jumping. They tussled over it for 3 or 4 minutes on Vormir. He is not the reason Natasha's dead. But
that
Contessa
would be Thanos.
Using that. Right.
That would be
Contessa's using that information to coerce Yelena to get in there and take him out. And I'm curious to see, like, I'd probably have to guess that the Hawkeye show is probably Jeremy Renner's last time playing the character.
Yeah, I think so,
because it's like a passing of the torch type thing. You got Haley Steinfeld. She's coming in to play Kate Bishop. She'll be the new Hawkeye. But is Yelena going to do it? Is she going to kill him? Or what, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I was wondering that. Like, are they actually going to kill off Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye in this show based on what we know from this post-credit scene?
Maybe.
Because I wonder at some point he might say, I didn't kill her. I tried to stop her, and I tried to put put me in that situation instead. I wanted to die, right? Like, but she's like, no, you saved your family, sort of thing. Instead, I don't have family. It's not true, because we just saw your family in this movie,
right?
So again, continuity would have been nice. Anyway, so I wonder if Yelena's going to believe it at all. Or like, what's the real motive? Like, why? Also, why does Valentina want Hawkeye?
Does she want an Avenger dead?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the big question here. And so you're sending Yelena, who is a widow, whose sister was an Avenger, to kill another Avenger who you thought killed your sister, who was an Avenger. So it's like
spicy.
Yeah,
I like it.
It's a spicy meatball.
It really is. It is a twisty web, and I'm excited for it. And the future, like, to me, this whole movie was about setting up Yelena to be part of the MCU, right?
Yep.
And that post-credit scene did a lot for me to get me very, very excited for where it's going to go. Like, the grounded MCU, which is what I'm calling, like, all the people that don't really have, like, powers or whatever.
Right.
With her, Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, new Cap, Bucky's still around. Like that whole thing is kicking and firing. And then now we've got this whole mystic multiverse area too, with the Doctor Strange stuff, and Loki, and Spider-Man, and the Marvels, and the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like there's something for everybody at this point.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And when you look at that future slate and you see how it's all going to connect, it's just to borrow a phrase from Thor, it's truly awesome. So I'm very excited for that. That post-credit sequence was like, for the first Marvel movie to come back to a theater, I imagine, obviously I didn't watch it at a theater, but like people that stuck around in their seats probably were like, oh, when it happened, because that's
hopefully.
So
hopefully,
yeah, man. So I think that's about time for us. We have talked for a long time about this movie, longer than I thought we would.
Yeah, true, but it's the first Marvel movie back after a 1.5 2-year hiatus. So
celebration.
Yeah.
And, there may have been some things that we didn't like and didn't click, but at the same time, I'm not upset that I watched the movie. I have no regrets. It was a fun 2 hours and 15 minutes. I'm gonna watch it again tonight and look for all the Easter eggs and all the fun things that come along with it, and just enjoy it for what it is. So now it's your turn, guys. We'd love to hear from you. Drop us a comment below. Let us know what you thought of this film. Let us know what you thought about that post-credit scene and where it is taking the MCU from here. Do you think Yelena's gonna kill Hawkeye? Put that in your comment below and let us know. And as always, if you'd like to support this channel, you can do so for free by clicking that like button, click the subscribe button, turn on those notifications, and share the video with your friends. If you want to have a nerdy conversation about Black Widow with two dudes that have absolutely zero credibility, this is your place to do it. So also be out on the lookout. We'll have some videos next week. We're going to talk about Marvel restructuring their contracts with their actors. I should have a 4K review of Mortal Kombat that comes out next week. We got the Loki finale. We got Bad Batch episode 12. Tons of stuff to talk about, so make sure to stay tuned to the channel. And until next time, we'll see you guys in the next video.
Peace.